welcome everyone. My name is Chef Tiffany Derry. Some of you may know me from Top Chef or Top Chef All-Stars or perhaps even Bar Rescue. But tonight I am here to talk to you about some amazing food and show you this recipe. But we have someone very special who you will never lay eyes on, but you will hear his voice. And his name is Scott. Scott is the man behind the voice. He's going to make sure that you get your questions answered, and sort of controlling the chat. Any questions you have for me, he will make sure that I see them. And let me tell you what, there's a lot of people who are joining us today. So if we miss your question, just retype it out. We'll make sure we try to get to as many as we can. But definitely, Scott has the most important job over me. But anyway, moving on.
No way, Chef. This is all you.
Thanks. So today we have 3 recipes. This is my serious face because this is so serious right now. Like, I want you to know how to prepare a steak. If anything, I just need you to walk away today saying, I feel comfortable making a steak, because that's what we're gonna do. We are gonna do picanha, and picanha is normally done in Brazilian steakhouses, and we're going to walk you through that cut, talk about it, break it down, show you how to do it. But the other thing is a sour cream and bacon potato salad. Now, potato salad is very controversial, and especially depending on what household you grew up in. And as I've already let everyone know here, we don't put fruits, whether that's raisins, cranberries, cherries, nuts, none of those in our potato salad. So we're gonna go through a recipe with some potato salad that is a little bit different than the recipe I grew up eating as well. And then we're gonna add some veggie, because no meal it's not complete without having some sugar snap peas, which are perfectly in season, very, very delicious. And I just want to show you a very simple way to do it so that you can always prepare yourself a quick meal. I'm going to make everything from start to finish within this hour. So this is real time. I want you to feel comfortable being able to do that. And I know that you can, because I have some tricks that I'll show you along the way. All right, so let's get started. All right, first, we're going to concentrate on the thing that's going to take the longest to cook, which is our potatoes. So I have some Yukon potatoes. They are very, very thin flesh. So that means that the skin, unlike Idaho potatoes or any of the even red potatoes, are a little bit thicker, but these are very creamy, very soft skin, so they're edible. They're very delicious by themselves. So what we're going to do is cut these. So we can cut them into 2s, we can cut it into 4s. This is going to be the size when it finishes. It will cook down and it will be a little creamy. So this is more of a chunky potato salad versus the potato salad that I grew up having. My mom and my grandmother would make sort of like a mashed potato, right? Mom, I don't want to get in trouble. I'm just talking, okay? All right, my mom's over there looking. All right, so this would be like a potato salad that is all the way creamy, lots of yellow mustard, lots of mayonnaise, which was delicious. But we're just going to do it a little bit different so that you have some variations to do.
Chef, if you don't have Yukon Golds, like what is a backup to a backup? Like if you go to I'm not saying we would not have it at HEB, of course, but just in case your HEB happens to not have Yukon Gold, is there another potato that folks can be just as successful with? Sure, they can do white
potatoes. And that a lot of times just, again, it's not as gold in the inside. So what you're looking at here is you can see that color is beautiful in the inside. That goldness equals very creaminess. And you can also see that the skin, even as you're cutting it, you can barely see the skin on a side angle view, right? Like if you're looking at it straight on. So this is why I leave the skin on this. But if you don't have either one, let's say you have some small potatoes, like some marble potatoes or something baby potatoes, you can use those as well. Truly any potato will work. The only thing about using sort of like an Idaho potato is that the skin is very thick, so it doesn't quite break down the same, but feel free, you can always just take the skin off and peel it if you like. But I suggest you try keeping the skin on. I already saw some questions about, are we gonna like take the skin off later? No, Mrs. Barber, we're not. So we're gonna go ahead and keep that on. All right, a couple of other things. We have our potatoes here. Hopefully you've chopped yours. And one of the things on the list, it said about making the bacon ahead of time. So hopefully your bacon is already crispy and ready to go. If not, go ahead and get your bacon going as well. You can pop it in the oven, or you can pop it in a skillet, fry it up however you choose to make it. Some people make it in a microwave. It's not my job to tell you, but however you want to make your bacon, go ahead and do it. We're going to take our potatoes now, and we're going to get them in some cold water on the stove.
So Chef, why the cold water? I love the tip. Why start with cold? Would it speed up the process to add them into hot water? Would somebody want to do that, or no?
It would seem as if you're going to speed up the process by adding them in hot water. But whenever you're cooking sort of tubers, as we call them, right, things that grow underground, you want to really start these with cold water so that they don't start cooking on the outside. So if I have hot water and I put my potatoes in that's already cut, all around the edges and the outside of the potato is going to get very, very mushy. It's going to overcook. It's going to cook way too fast, and the inside will still be hard. So we want to make sure that we allow our potato to cook through all the way. So that means that we are just going to add it in with cold water. We're going to add lots of salt. I know it seems like I'm adding a lot. We want salty water. I want ocean salty water. I want you've gone to the beach, halfway can swim. I might be talking about myself. And that water gets in your mouth, you taste it, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so salty. That is what you're looking for here with your potatoes. We cook our potatoes that way. We cook our pasta that way. Salty water. How do you know if it's salty? Taste it, you know? Taste a little bit of that. So what that's gonna do is season the whole potato. Because a lot of times when we add salt later, almost like cooking rice, you know, when you cook rice, you want to make sure you start with your salt because it doesn't really take the salt very much later. So you really want to make sure you get it all the way through the potato, not just seasoning the mayonnaise liquid. So I'm actually going to bring this up to a boil. We want this to cook all the way through. We do not want crunchy potatoes. I'm not here for that, all right? So make sure our potatoes are in, we've left the skin on, we've cut them up. We've added salted cold water to the pot. We're going to bring it up to a boil, and we're going to let it cook all the way through.
Chef, I don't know if you can see from over where you're standing the lone teardrop that's coming down my face because you said what I think everybody should know, like salt your water to taste like the ocean. I love it. And I'm right there with you. Everybody's been there in the ocean where they get a big gulp of water, and you're like, yep, everybody knows what that tastes like.
Yeah, you're crying. Yeah.
I love it.
I love it.
Gotta
you have
salt
to make
it.
sure you do that. That's a very important step that a lot of people miss, and you wonder, like, why does mine never come out like such and such who makes it great, right? So that is the trick to doing it. All right, let's talk about the star of the show, picanha, if I can ever get a glove on. All right. So we're going to talk about picanha, and picanha is a cut of beef. You guys have it. You've seen it. I always take a piece of paper towel and I dry off all of my proteins, especially anything that I'm going to be cooking with, because the water is our enemy. It does not like the pan or any of those, so it just makes a much better crust. All right, so what we have here is the full piece of picanha. It has, it looks like a triangle, right? There is a cap, which we call the fat cap, which is on the top. We do not trim this off. Seems like a lot of fat, but it's going to cook down and it's going to render. That's important because, as you can see, this cut of meat only has very little marbling, and what that is the fat that runs in between the layers. The fat that runs in between the layers is very, very important because that is where the tenderness, the juiciness comes from when it comes to making a steak. So when you're looking sort of at a cow and you wonder, where is this cut from? It's not with a ribeye. It's not a loin cut. There is muscle in here that is slightly being worked. So ideally, when we're talking about filet mignon, the reason that we love it and it's super tender is because it doesn't really work. It's just kind of hanging out there. And so we want to make sure that we cook the rump cap in a way that it can definitely break down. So there's a couple of names for this. Rump cap, it's called a culotte, it's called picanha. All of those names are the same exact thing. So the other thing that I love about it is that it's cheap, right? For 2.5 pounds of meat, $20, 2 pounds. Any other cut this size is at least $80 for the quality of what this is. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we are going to cut it with the grain. And what that means is when you look at your steak, you can see how the lines run, right? You see how it's just kind of flowing this way. We want to cut ideally with the grain. Later on, it's going to make a huge difference. That is how we're going to have a very tender steak. So our first cuts, because I want to make this a little bit smaller, this is a big steak to cook with, right? So we want to cook with something a little bit more manageable. This is sort of my prime cut because it's beautiful. I'll cut a nice chunk here. I'm going to cut this into 3s. So I have that cut, go straight through.
Chef, I love this too because this is similar to like a tri-tip, right? On the West Coast,
Correct, it is. It's similar, but this actually has better flavor to me than the tri-tip. So you have picanha on one side and you have the tri-tip on the other side. So they look very much similar. Tri-tip would have no fat on it. And also tri-tip is just a little bit more chewy than this one for me. And it's larger. Okay, so next I'm gonna cut it again, right? I want 3 pieces. So I'm cutting with the lines, with the grain. You see the grain here? And you notice this one's kind of coming in, that's okay.
I love it, Chef, because it's a great tutorial to kind of like with the grain against the grain. Obviously, you know, because if you were to cut this with the grain once you cooked it and you did it low and slow in the style you're going to do it, which is so great, somebody could be chewing on it for an hour if you don't cut it. So it's like the way you do it from start to finish, 100%, like so perfect.
So I'm just going to take, normally I don't take off any fat, but it's really thick in that center. So I'm just going to take a little, and you can see that I'm still leaving quite a bit. This one is very, very thick on this one, but that's okay. So if you can do this all later, but I know that I want you to have a piece of fat that you're gonna wanna eat later. So we would have to trim that off a little bit. All right, perfect. Okay, so check this out. Normally, when you go to a Brazilian steakhouse, what you would have is sort of those pieces that are like this, round, and they put a skewer through them, they grill them whole like this, and then they shave them at your table. So instead of doing all of that, we are gonna keep it sort of steak-like. We're going to season it up really well, and I'm gonna put a few slits through the skin to ensure that we can break it down.
Chef, we got a question. Cheryl would like to know, how can I adapt, because I know we talked about salting the water, which brought a tear to my eye, which was great. How do you adapt that for like a low sodium diet? For folks that you know that are looking to cook, just add less salt, or is there
I mean, at this point, whatever you're cooking for, if it's dietary restrictions, you want to do what your doctor is telling you to do, right? For a nutritionist, you want to make sure that you cut out some of the salt. We can add flavor later, so we can add that part. But just put a little less salt. I mean, it definitely is going to taste slightly different, but it doesn't mean that it won't taste delicious, right? Okay, so I have my steaks here. I'm going to take one of my gloves out, and I have broken it down into 3 pieces. And then I have gone and made a few slits, so you can see sort of what I did here. Don't pierce it all the way to the meat. Guys, tell me, how are we doing? Are we doing okay with speed? Do you need me to slow down some? I want to make sure that everyone is following. Talk to Scott in the comments and let us know.
Chef, you have so many comments over here. I couldn't even read them all fast enough to get to them all. There's a lot of love. They're all doing it. There's a great pace. Everybody's saying all good. Okay. They wanted you to repeat. Can you repeat the info? Because it was great info about the with the grain before you cook it and then against the grain after you cook it, because that was a good nugget. I think some people wanted you to,
cool.
to hear again.
So if you look here, and I'll turn the steak over, you can see that steak, how it's running. You can see how the white and the brown just sort of runs a certain way. So like here it's running here, here it's running here, here it's kind of running that way. What I mean is I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna cut it where it continues to run. I'm not gonna cut where it breaks it, which is against the grain. If it's already running this way, I'm gonna take a cut and I'm gonna cut the other, okay? So I cut this into 3 pieces. And the reason this is so important is because later it will define how tender our meat will be. So that is very important because we are using a cut that is not from the loin. It is not a ribeye. It's not a filet, but it's so much flavor, and I'm going to show you later, and you're going to taste for yourself, that you won't care about that. But we do have to make sure we treat it in a certain way to get the results. So we salted it. I'm going to salt the other side. And I want you to kind of go generous. You can see what's happening here. This is like, we need to make sure we season this because it don't come seasoned.
Salt is flavor, right?
Salt is flavor, and salt brings out flavor. I have seasoned every nook and cranny here. And I love that my potatoes are going already. And then I'm just going to add a touch of black pepper with my small little.
That's right. We got to get the real. We got to get the Chef Tiffany Derry grinder.
We're going to add in some black pepper. This is just for the effect,
It
right?
makes it taste better because it has to go through a longer shoot, I think.
Okay, that's enough of that. All right, so black pepper. Again, I do have some here. So when you are doing picanha, typically, like traditionally, it does not have black pepper. It's only salt, rock salt. So here, to treat it more like I would a traditional steak, I am adding in the black pepper because, number one, I like the flavor. Okay, so we're going to get it ready. I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper to the other side. My potatoes seem to be boiling quite well over there. Hopefully yours is doing the same. And I'm going to take my steak on over and we're going to start searing. This is the good part.
So, Chef, you're using a cast iron skillet, right?
That is correct.
And normally people would, like, when you sear a steak, like a ribeye or something like that, you're going to go real high heat because you want to get that really nice crust on it. With this one, it's different, right? Different technique you're using?
That's correct. So what we're going to do here, normally with a steak, you would want to get a high heat. You want to get this pan smoking. You want to put your steak in. You want to brown it and get it really crispy. Here, what we want to do is actually start it a little bit slower. So my cast iron, which is beautiful for holding in heat and beautiful for doing the job it needs to do. If you have another saute pan, feel free to use that as well. You do not have to have cast iron to cook this dish. So again, I'm going to start with a little bit of no oil just for the moment, and I'm going to just get this hot. So medium heat, not super duper hot. To the point where it would be a little too much for me to touch it. So since I've been on with you, I turned it on. I didn't heat up the pan for a very long time, and we're getting it going. Now it's getting there. So I'm going to add a touch of oil now.
And Chef, we talked about this earlier. What is your, so people know, they always want to know what's the best oil to cook. And I think, asking a chef, like, what are the oils you typically are going to use in your kitchen? What's your go-to for stuff?
For sure. Okay. Did y'all hear that? Did you hear it?
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't this crazy sizzle. It was just a little one. It's just kind of a little baby sizzle. That's because not super high heat. Enough in here. If your pan doesn't have enough room to fit all three, just do two. This is probably more meat than you'll eat anyway. This is enough for sure for 4 to 6 people. Okay, so I used grapeseed oil, and it's funny because everyone sent questions about the oil. So grapeseed oil is an oil that burns at a higher rate or at a higher temperature. So when we're talking about extra virgin olive oil, the reason that I would not use extra virgin olive oil for cooking a steak is because the extra virgin burns quick. So as soon as that hot oil gets really, really hot, it starts burning off, starts smoking really badly. Grapeseed oil has a high smoke point, which means that it can stand the heat. Things like avocado oil, another higher smoke point. Those are good. Some people had canola. Completely okay to use canola oil. That, again, has a higher smoke point. So the thing about the grapeseed, though, that I love is that it has no flavor. So if I have some flavor that's going to already be going on, I don't need to add too much. Extra virgin olive oil has a lot of flavor. So for those type of things, we use it for ingredients that maybe it's more of a finishing, maybe a vinaigrette, maybe it's a light cooking, not a whole lot of heavy, high heat cooking. And so that's kind of what I like. So I see that my pan is getting nice and hot. It's starting to sear off. You can see how much oil is coming out. That's oil from the fat. So when I say render, what I'm meaning is that the oil or the fat will start to cook away and turn to oil and then it won't be so thick. So we need time to do that. You don't want to do that over a high heat. If you realize that you're smoking up your house, turn it down. We're not trying to sear this just yet. Turn it on down. Stay with me. Slow down. All right, so I've turned my pan down as well, and I'm just going to let that cook. My potatoes are looking good. I'm just going to test them real quick.
It already smells amazing, and I'm
No,
apologizing.
the smell of beef, like, so good. Okay, we are gonna now start with our potato salad. So I'm gonna grab all my ingredients. Some of you were smart about it and made sure that you chopped up your celery, chopped up all of your onions and all of that good stuff. I mean, I guess if you didn't chop it up, it didn't mean you weren't smart. You were just thinking ahead. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started. That's funny. Sometimes I crack myself up. Y'all don't crack yourself up?
Look, I've been laughing the whole time you've been doing it.
Okay.
And you are, I'm having the most fun watching you
I've
do
been
this.
told by my family members that I'm not that funny, but I apparently just laugh at myself. But I'm okay with that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I have 2 celery stalks. I'm going to cut them in half. This is just gonna make my chopping later easier.
And I love the celery and good potato salad. I apparently, Chef, I have not had good potato salad because I think I've been doing it wrong. Well, I say I don't.
Talk to me. What you been
I'm
doing? What's happening?
I think I'm a bad Southerner. See, I grew up in Houston, but then I left to go to Los Angeles for a long time, and so like I haven't done the full like immersified, the good way of like the potato salad and all that kind of stuff. So I missed out on that whole boat. And
so are you sort of the mashed potatoes, like super creamy, yellow mustard, grandma style, all of that? Was that you before?
No, I don't think so. I would say like if I had any kind of style, I prefer them a little more like the whole potatoes, kind of more like I would say like German potato salad, where they're not overcooked, like they're not mashed all kind of to death. But no, I don't want any currants or golden raisins or anything like that crazy in my potato salad. I agree with you.
We're not doing that. Nope, nope, nope.
I apologize if that's how you like them, but I like the simple.
All right.
It's not ambrosia salad, right?
No, it's definitely not. So again, you're just gonna cut these sort of thin. You want them crispy. It's really to provide a little bit of crunch to your potato salad. And if you don't want to really see it at all, feel free to kind of go through and mince it up even a little bit more. Everybody has a very specific way of making potato salad. I remember my Aunt Mamie, who's probably watching right now, her daughter and I grew up like sisters. She was Anika, and now she's a doctor, so well established. But
she's on here. She's been saying hi the whole time, by the way.
Oh, really?
She's on
Hey, family. So my aunt, I'm sorry, auntie. My aunt would like whip the crap out of them potatoes for that potato salad, and she believed that it had to be like done in this way. And there is nothing wrong with, doing them how you do them, but there are more ways to do it than the one that we know sometimes.
Can we ask her why? Can we ask Dr. Anika why she would do? Was it just the way she was taught, or was there? I want to know, is there something special that would happen? Like if
Anika?
you hit a special, if you hit it enough, was it like a centrifuge of whatever happened?
Well, I'm about to get in trouble because y'all about to have me get in trouble. But this is the same aunt who really does like everything sort of burnt and well done. So I'm not really sure if the potato salad was more of just the style that she liked, the creaminess, fluffy. Don't get me wrong, it's delicious. Yeah. Like if you want someone to make the potato salad, she's gonna make it. It's gonna take all day to make it, but she's gonna make it. Right, Ma?
I love it.
So, okay, we have our celery. We're now going to chop up some onion. So, for those of you who do not know, one of the best ways to do is to definitely, you can take off a little bit of the core if you like. Then, I already chopped it, but I really want to show you. Then take off this piece right here. Then cut it in half. And then you're left with this, and you can just easily peel off that one layer. Take that first layer off.
I love red onion in anything.
So we're doing okay so far. We're doing it's okay. So then we're just going to sort of make the first chop. And your first chop is most important because this dictates the size of your onions. So if you've chopped that first one a little too big, all of your onion will be big. Then I put my hand here, my palm, and I just sort of go through it. and bring it right on back. And then I chop from here.
Just working with those layers, just giving them a separation.
That's it. So that you have a smaller cut, you know, like those are the kind of pieces we're looking for, right? Like that really small piece of onion diced really, really fine. So if you're a person, this is the thing, potato salad is subjective. It's subjective to how you grew up, how your parents made it, how they didn't make it, and then maybe you learned another way and decided, you know what, I like certain things. Some potato salads have dill pickles, right? Like pickle a relish. So you have sweet relish, you have dill relish. I love a mixture of different sweet and dill. I also, like, my mom would put sugar. She would put a little bit of sugar in her potato salad, which is something else that I love. So instead of just putting sugar, you could always do the sweet relish along with the dill. Here, we're gonna take some of that tanginess from the sour cream and the mayonnaise, and we're going to layer in another flavor of dill, which is an herb. Anybody ever had dill pickles? That's sort of dill. So this is dill. Beautiful dill from the garden. And what's the garden we got this from?
Patty's Herbs. So our partners,
Herbs.
you can get all any herb you pretty much get at HEB is going to come from Patty's Herbs with us, and so
Love
they do.
it.
They're in Pearsall, Texas, not too far from our headquarters here. They're awesome. That is a local dill. It's good stuff.
Nice. So good. Dill, to me, is one of those herbs that people don't use a lot. I use it a whole lot, even at Roots Chicken Shack. I oftentimes will put in fresh dill in many things. I'm just checking my steak, and I hope that you are as well, because it's looking good, it's smelling good, it's slowly cooking.
I can
and I'm
smell
gonna
the
just
fat,
show you.
Chef. I can smell that rendering fat, that kind of
Yes,
tallow smell.
that
It's good.
beefiness. So that's really what you have there, is sort of that beef that's starting to sear away. We're just gonna let it keep doing its thing. I have it low and slow at this moment, and then we're gonna turn it up a little bit later. I'm also gonna check my potatoes because I don't want mushy, but I definitely want cooked, and they are almost there. Wow, that's it. I love it, love it, love it. Okay.
We're doing great. Time is great. Everything's great. We're
All
good.
right. So let's cut up some dill. This is not something you need to peel, take each layer off. The stem is pretty tender. Just chop it up. I love dill because a lot of times growing up, I loved dill pickles. And so you would, take cucumbers, put it in with a salt and vinegar mixture, and you would put in dill, fresh dill or dried dill. And that's how you make dill pickles. So since we're not adding in relish, we're gonna add in the fresh dill. So we're gonna get the freshness in our potato salad. You see what we're doing right there? Y'all see that?
I love what you're doing, Chef Tiffany. I love the fact I feel like dill has been, this last couple years, I've really warmed up to using dill in not just as an ingredient or whatever, just as everything. Throw it in salads, chop it up, it's good in everything.
Okay, so whatever you have left, throw, again, seriously, if you have some lettuce, you're gonna do anything with a salad, just put the fresh herbs in there. If you have a soup, use dill like you would almost do parsley. It's just so good, so delicious, and it's gonna bring out so much flavor, you're not even gonna believe it. Okay, now let's make some sauce. So what we're gonna do is take some mayonnaise. I'm going to use a 1/2 cup of the mayonnaise, and I'm gonna actually go ahead and put everything in.
And we talked about this in rehearsal, but not everybody got to hear all that good stuff.
Who rehearses? This is off the cuff, baby!
Do you like to make your own mayonnaise, or do you just do? It's easy because it's shelf stable, but I mean, do you do it? What's your stance on that?
I don't really make a lot of my own mayonnaise, just because, again, it takes a little bit of time. But if you have the time, the flavor is usually far superior. I made a aioli the other day with saffron, egg yolks, and olive oil,
yeah.
and I did it in a mortar and pestle, and I worked it, and I made mayonnaise out of that, and it was so good. We had it for one of the dishes I did with some duck fat fried potatoes, and yeah, that was perfect, right? But it does take a little bit of work, but it's worth it if you want to do it. If you're gonna add a lot of other ingredients to it, then maybe it can be a little lost in there. But if you're ever and you want to make your own mayonnaise, it's just egg yolk, oil, finish it with a little touch of lemon. Sometimes we put a touch of water too, And that's really it.
And
Some
a lot
salt
of
and
friction.
pepper.
A lot of friction in that mortar and pestle to get that thing.
Or I just use a blender. If you're smart, just go with the blender. So I added in some whole grain mustard. I'm also going to add in some smoked paprika. And this is sort of the smokiness of the dish. And I'll probably add in a little bit more later. So I'm just making my base for my potato salad. And then later on, we can adjust a little bit. Touch of salt, touch of pepper, a little bit of green onion as well. Some people put chives, and that's quite okay too. Some people just call the greens on here chives. I grew up thinking that as well. But you know, chives is an actual herb that's actually a little bit thinner, a little more potent, super delicious, very, very fine. I'm gonna add in some green onion a little later too, but I'm just gonna chop up some now. Add that in. So we're making our base. Also, if you were to make this sauce, it's also great with seafood. You can have this ready to go, use it for some crab meat, maybe even a shrimp, some boiled shrimp, shrimp salad, something like that. And also a good base for even chicken salad.
I was just going to say, that looks like the perfect base for any of those, any and all the above, chef.
Only thing I would add is a little bit of spice in my life.
I like that.
And I'm also going to go ahead and chop up my bacon. Hopefully you already had your bacon ready to go. And I'm going to add it in a little bit later so that it doesn't get too soft.
Chef, will you talk a little bit about, for those that are, there's a lot of people here in the chat, a lot of people just throwing so much love out. Would you give like a little bit of background as to what got you into food and what put you on the track that you're on now, just for everybody to kind of understand like a little bit of your story.
Yeah.
Doesn't be long, short, however you want to tell it, just a little bit about how did Tiffany Derry get to where she is? Like where'd you come from?
So
What's the story?
I come from a really large family. My grandmother had 11 children, and they all lived in Baton Rouge and Port Allen, Louisiana. My grandmother was a single parent for a large chunk of her life, and then she eventually moved the family to Beaumont, Texas, which is sort of the border of Louisiana and Texas. And that's pretty much where I grew up with so many of my cousins, so many of them who are watching today. You heard Dr. Barbara, Shantae, Giselle is there. I mean, like I just have so many amazing family and friends who are watching today. And we grew up really, really close as a family. And that was sort of the start. My grandmother cooked extremely well. Every last one of my uncles and my aunts had to learn to cook. And I believe that just sort of gotten passed down to me. And even my cousins now, you know, even the ones who weren't really into it when they were much younger, now they're like cooking and making amazing food. And sometimes it takes us a little longer to get there. But I started at IHOP, International House of Pancakes. And I walked in at 15 years old and I said that I want to be a chef. I want to go cook at IHOP. No reason why. I mean, I didn't necessarily need money. My mom then wasn't making me get a job. And I did. And I loved every moment of it. It was fantastic. It was so busy. You know, I worked with a lot of people who didn't even speak English. And I tell you, it was like the best time of my life. I loved my time working there. And that was sort of the start. Yeah. I started managing right as soon as I believe I turned 17. I was a manager at the IHOP. I worked graveyard shift. I worked from 8 at night to 6 in the morning. I remember this time I was working, and my mom came to see me, mom, dad, and they were looking and they were just watching me. My mom was watching me with this serious face, and I was like, okay, I don't know what this is about, but you know, I'm cooking, and she's watching from the dining room, and I'm sweating, and we moving, and I'm screaming, because I do expo, so I'm the one like calling out all the dishes. And so later that evening, much later that night, I get home, and I open the door and it's dark. And then I go into the living room and my mom is sitting there in the dark. Okay. Uh-oh. So I'm like, oh Lord, what I did. I didn't mean to do it. I don't know what I done, you know. So she tells me, baby, sit down. And I sit down, I'm nervous. And she's like, you have your whole life to work this hard. You don't have to. And I'm like, but I love it. And so that was really the start. From there, it turned into culinary school at the Art Institute of Houston. Moved there and ended up just working my way through kitchens. It was amazing.
I love it. It's that first thing you learn, like the first time you do it, like you're just, there's so much coming at you, there's so much to learn, like it's so fresh and new, and
Yeah,
you're just learning all these things you never thought actually really happened in places until you're actually in it. So it's such a great, I love it. I love what you're doing. I wish everybody could smell this.
Y'all see all that fat? Do you see all of that that's rendering out of that steak? That's insane. So I'm gonna turn it up just a little. I'm also gonna strain my potatoes at this time because they are completely done. Your potatoes at home should be done too if you started cooking yours at the same time I started cooking mine.
So Chef, I notice, and everybody will notice too, you have not flipped the steak. We are at a nice, even temperature. We are leaving it alone. It is dancing in the pan. It's doing its thing, right? We're not moving it. All that
I'm
fat.
not touching it. Leave it alone. Let it do its thing, people.
That sky cam, there's so much good tallow rendering off that fat. It's like it's like a pool.
Okay, so I'm gonna take my potatoes and transfer them to a different bowl so that they can just start to kind of cool off. I don't want them this hot. They're fully cooked.
Nice and hot, steamy. So now, Chef, do you recommend letting them cool a little bit, or you like throwing them in?
So we're gonna cool them just a little. Yep, we're gonna cool these potatoes off just a little. I don't want them ice cold, and I don't want them. I just kind of want them warm. Whoops, missed the bowl.
Little warmness to kind of
adhere to the sauce.
Yeah,
Potatoes
like
jumping everywhere. These
activate the herbs.
So yep. All right. So potatoes are gonna cool off. We have our sauce ready, and then steak's looking really good, almost there. And we're gonna show you what to do with that next. So again, potatoes are done, sauce is ready. We're gonna put that together in a few, and now let's concentrate on the steak.
I love it.
So turning it up a little bit. It's time to get this baby rolling. So we're gonna turn it up. We're gonna allow it to cook off a little bit more.
So now, Chef, you said this, you like this cut because it's tender if you cook it right. What is your ideal temperature that you like to serve picanha at?
Great question. So if you are a well-done steak eater, this is not the cut to do that on. You really don't want to go over medium, but if you do, medium well, cooked right, will still give you tender results. We want to make sure, because again, this is a tougher cut of meat that we are cooking properly to make it taste delicious and tender. So I usually serve this medium. The other thing that we're going to do is allow it to rest a little bit so that it can become very, very tender. That's very important when cooking any proteins.
Chef,
I'm also going to take a little bit of that fat off.
Chef, I got another question from you from Sophie. Would like to know what kind of knives you use. I think what kind of knives you use, not what you recommend, but what you use is what the question is. What do you like? Okay,
so most of the time I use shun or something of that nature, which is basically more of a Japanese blade. But it really just depends what works for you. You know, I do a lot of cutting, so a lot of times I don't want to resharpen so often, and I need my knife to really last. So I have to make sure that I buy, knives are expensive, a couple $100, a few $100s for knives, for good ones, so we have to make sure that we buy the right one. Okay, what I did was I took some of that oil off so that it didn't fry. I don't need it to fry. Again, we're really rendering off a lot of fat here. Brought it up, and it's almost time to flip our steak. So what I'm gonna do now, get your thyme. Everybody saw that thyme you had in your box or your bag or what you bought?
Fresh thyme. Fresh
thyme. Get your fresh thyme, get your garlic, and get your butter.
This is where all the magic happens, right here.
Before you put this in the pan, I want you to be aware that the oil in the water in here will pop a little bit. Not like some crazy, it's more of a sound, but just be aware. So definitely just make sure that you just pop it in. I'm not saying jump back, but pop it in and get back a little bit, all right? So I'm gonna put mine on the opposite end. You hear it? I'm gonna add in my garlic. I'm adding in about 5 cloves of garlic. You hear it?
Oh yeah.
And I'm actually gonna go ahead and turn mine. See, they're looking good. They're starting to sear up.
Beautiful, chef.
Yes. All right. So if you're here, perhaps you can turn it down just a touch. I'm going to add in a little bit of butter. And I have a basting spoon. What I'm going to do is take that garlic and let that cook in there. You see that brown is, oh my gosh, it's my favorite part of cooking. This is that time when you smell the garlic, you smell the butter, you take it and you hold it back like that, and you just sort of baste your food. See what I'm doing here? It's a motion like this. Just let the garlic, let the butter, let the thyme all cook within themselves. So they're making this incredible flavor.
It's amazing how much it picks up, chef. When you baste it like that, like we're just having it sitting in the fat and the butter, it's amazing.
I know, it's so great. So you just want to do that a little bit. Yes! Can you do it with me? How many people got the motion down?
A little practice. Practice makes perfect. Chef, we got a question for you. Adrienne wants to know, how and when do you know to flip that steak, the picanha?
So I was waiting for my fat to sort of render off a little bit. I wanted that skin to get a little bit more of color. And then I'm also, you can start to see where it's slightly starting to cook the meat, where it's penetrating through the fat. So that's important as well. If you have a thermometer, you can flip it. Once you flip it, we're trying to go for about 135, 130. We're going to allow it to carry over cooking. And at that point, that'll give us another 5 to 7 degrees, meaning more in the medium. So I'm going to stop it while it's cooking medium rare to allow it to rest, but it's going to carry over cooking the medium. I know I just blew somebody's mind. But in steak cookery, we typically cook under to allow it to rest to get to the temperature. Okay, prime example. Here we go. Let's say it's Thanksgiving time and you have your turkey. And some of those turkeys have those things in it, plastic in your turkey. It's great, right? That pops out and tells you your turkey is at 165, a little internal thermometer. Okay, that little thing only pops out once it hits 165, which is the proper cook time of a turkey. Well, your turkey comes out dry every time. The reason is because you would need to pull that out a little early and allow it to continue cooking so that 5 to 7 will continue cooking, and then you will have delicious, moist turkey. It works for chicken. I pull my chicken out at 160, not 165. Allow it to sit. And if you want to test it at that point again because you're nervous about, the temperature, and I understand a lot of home cooks are, you can test it with your thermometer at that point, but it will always climb. So a lot of times as you're cooking, your meat will continue to climb, and we want to make sure that we allow it to rest. And the resting takes all of that juice back in. So if I take my steak out and I cut it immediately, right after it comes out of the pan, I'm going to have juice, I'm going to have liquid flowing all over my cutting board. If I just let it wait and let the juice sort of get back in, hang out, enjoy themselves, it's a whole different ball game, all right? Whole different ball game. So again, we're going to let this keep cooking. It's not there yet. If you have a thermometer, go ahead and start looking for it and pull it out. If you don't and you're doing it with me, I'll show you what you're going to get.
Chef, in my house for Thanksgiving, they would wait until the thermometer shot out of the turkey, went around the oven, and then landed on the floor of the oven. That's when they knew it was ready to go. That's how they used to do it in my house.
Oh my gosh, it was some dry turkey, man.
I want to give a shout out. You got some love asking. They want to know, do you think Daddy Lloyd would like this steak?
My dad loves steak. He would definitely love his steak. So he loves picanha in its own. I've actually never cooked it for him at home, so he would be super excited to have that.
It smells so good. I'm so sad that you can't there's not an app you could put your phone up to it and you could send the smell.
So what I did was I turned it a little bit to get some browning on all sides. So we're almost there. We're almost there, guys. It's almost dinner time. I'm going to go ahead and saute my sugar snap peas while we're waiting. So again, turn your pan on. Get it ready. Well, not too hot. Not too hot. Yum. Okay, sugar snap time. I love these things. A lot of people don't cook sugar snap peas at home. You can eat them raw just like this. They're delicious.
They're really
crunchy,
good like that.
tender.
Crunchy, yeah, they're so sweet.
What you have to do though, guys, is you want to see, I'm not sure, was this one, did it say peeled? Wash and ready to eat. So what happens is a lot of times there's a stem, a little bit kind of a strong stem, which I haven't gotten one yet, which is great. So what I'm doing is taking off this sort of piece right here. Sometimes
a little tougher, right? It doesn't quite cook down as well, or?
It doesn't. It's
mealy.
a fiber in there, and it doesn't break down very much. So just take that off. But it looks like these have already been cleaned, which is great. So a lot of times the reason people don't cook them is because of the work of having to peel each individual one. But
Chef Aunt Gail would like to know,
Hey,
would you leave garlic whole or chop, and what's better?
Meaning for the steak, right? That's what we're talking
ma'am.
about,
Yes,
I believe.
chef.
You want to leave it whole. The reason that you're leaving it whole is because you see how long it's going to be cooking there. If we chop it up, it will burn. So we want to leave it whole. You can also leave it in the skin as well. That works great. No problems with leaving it in the skin while you're searing the steak. Just not here.
Gives a little more protection to it.
She keeps going up.
It's
All
so
right.
good. There's a fine line between the beautiful caramelized garlic and that burnt, like it's unmistakable, the flavor.
Ooh, you can't even save the dish when you burn that garlic like that. Again, so I'm just sort of taking it off, that little piece, which is great because this has already been cleaned for you. That's a plus right there. Almost done.
So good. So good. Everything's so good.
Almost ready, guys. So my steak is on its final, I'm pretty sure, few minutes of cooking. We're gonna put it off to rest. I have a sheet tray with a rack. You can just pop it on a plate, it's fine. And we're just gonna allow it to rest. And then we're gonna chop it up, plate it, and eat. How we doing? Everybody with me? Everybody's steak cooking good?
They're good.
Any questions over there, Scott?
So much love and so much bomb.com, so much I couldn't even read it all fast enough to you, Chef, to get it all.
So
There's
they're
a
not
lot
having
of
questions, basically.
Everybody's having a good time. We are, the couple of questions about temperature of the meat, which you nailed, everything else. They want to know, Daddy Lloyd, if he would like the steak. I mean, you're killing it.
All right. Oh my gosh, we have a very young person with us tonight. She is watching. Her name is Kelly. I love them. Grew up with the family in Beaumont, Texas. Her dad and mom are just amazing people, and I love it when the kids get involved. You should definitely, guys, cook with your children. It makes them very comfortable in the kitchen and gets them ready. Get them ready. Don't do them a disservice. Like, let them chop with maybe a plastic knife, or let them mix, let them learn so they're not scared.
Especially because you got to eat every day to live. So you may as well learn how to do it well, right?
Every day.
Every day.
All right, cool. All right, yes. Looking good. Look at that brown. All right, we're almost there. So I'm going to give this
looks
about
great,
another
Chef.
minute or two. I'm going to baste that with that garlic and that thyme. Yeah.
Chef Latrice says her 14-year-old daughter is cooking this tonight.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Latrice, I hope you have a glass of wine or a cocktail while she's cooking. You're just kicking back, right? That's the way it should be.
Well, let's talk about wine a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's right. What are you going to drink with this, Chef? What are we having?
Did you not bring the wine?
I have a stash.
Oh my gosh, guys, he didn't bring the wine.
What do you want? I got it looks like in our liquor cabinet, Grand Marnier, a little tequila. We really should ask, what does Mom want, right?
Mom doesn't drink, so it'll just be me.
All right. Just be
So my pan was a little hot, so I don't want my pan to be too hot for my sugar snap peas. We don't really want to brown them very much. We really just want to get them a little crisp, slightly cooked, and so I just took it on out and went from there. Oh, y'all. So I know that some of you can't do what I'm doing, which is touching, and that's how I know what temperature it is. That's why I said for you to grab your thermometer. That would be your best bet. So my steaks are done.
Chef, we got a lot of people that are way ahead of us on the drinking. There's a lot of people that got wine already open. They're doing it.
Save me some. So my steak is completely done. And just let it rest with a little bit of that garlic.
Oh yeah, look at all that great stuff in the pan too.
Yes. And I'm gonna baste it with a little bit of that extra butter too.
Love it, love it.
I mean, nothing like beef fat on top of beef.
I'm telling you. That's right.
Beautiful.
The dairy fat and then the fat.
Right? Okay, so my pan is now ready. You can use extra virgin olive oil, or you can just stick with whatever oil you cooked with tonight. That's cool too. So a little bit of oil, not very much. I'm gonna add in, sorry, I need to come over here and add in my greens, my sugar snap peas.
What I love about this recipe, Chef, is it's really, the vegetable is just simple. You've got salt, pepper, it's an in-season vegetable, and you're gonna hit it with a little bit of extra flavor with that lemon.
And that's what I truly love about cooking in season. So sugar snap peas are in season right now. And guess what? You don't have to do much to them. A little salt, a little pepper. They're gonna be so sweet. And then I hit it with just a touch of water to steam it a little.
And Chef, right, that keeps it from getting too much color, right? Keeps it from getting too much color, the water?
You can cover it if you like, but what you see right now is you can see that the color is changing. Can y'all see that? As it's cooking, it's changing. Love it. So we'll let that sit and do its thing. I'm cutting the pan off. And actually, if you just want to, you could put a lid. It's finished cooking. I've turned it off and just let it sit. That's good to go. All right, potato salad. We are going to add in our mixture. I'm gonna put some, and I can always add more, right? So the thing is, I can't take it out once I add it, so I always just add a little bit and see where we're at.
It's a great tip.
Same thing with salt, right? We can always add, we just can't take it out. So add a little bit, see where it's at, taste it. It's looking good. I'm gonna add a little bit more because the potatoes will sort of, as they sit, it will absorb more.
If you overseason your food, just send it to me, care of Scott at HEB, and I'll eat the oversalted food. A big believer, everybody needs to have their salt. I'll take it all.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
Oh,
yes.
We were talking about steak. We talked earlier about this cut of meat is big, it's bold. What was your wine that you said you want to go with?
I would want a Merlot or a Cab, like something really bold to stand up to the beefiness of that steak. I mean, it's not something I would have with a sweet wine just because it doesn't really fit. It won't be able to do anything against it. Now, if you are a person who's like, I don't like wines that, are that bold, go with the Pinot Noir then, but definitely don't have a Moscato or Riesling, not even a Chardonnay with this. Try at least to go with some red.
Well, how we do? The bacon.
Don't forget about the bacon. And I want to touch more of salt, but really what I want is some lemon or some kind of acid. So if you got a little bit of lemon, it needs just a touch more acid.
A little bit of acid, all that fat.
Yep. Squeeze of lemon.
The mayo.
Y'all, this is one. And
right.
Again, it's not weird to put the lemon. It's not weird to put vinegar if you have that. A lot of times when you think about it, when you're putting the relish, whether you're putting like a dill relish, that has a lot of vinegar in it. That's why you don't need the vinegar typically when you do that. So just know that part. Guys, it's a perfect consistency. It looks got beautiful. Enough.
They got the sky cam on you right now, Chef.
Yes,
right
that
down into that bowl.
Good.
All
that
that
looks
goodness.
Real good.
Chef, we got a question from Lawrence. What's your favorite zesty mayo? Or just, I guess, favorite mayo? Favorite zesty mayo?
I don't know what a zesty mayo is.
I was curious too. I was like, favorite mayo maybe?
Okay. HEB mayo is my favorite mayo. No. I like a few. Honestly, I like Blue Plate. I like Hellman's as well. I don't do Miracle Whip. That's sweet. Not really mayo, but
Duke's is pretty classic.
Duke's is great. Honestly, there's a lot. As long as it's like a real mayo, meaning not all sugar. Okay, so I'm just adding in a little bit of green onion. I'm actually gonna go ahead and put this in the bowl that I'm gonna serve this in. Grab a new spoon.
Beautiful. Again, at this point, your steak is probably resting, right? Chef Tiff's steak is resting.
My sugar snap peas are ready.
Plating up that potato salad, yes.
And I like to serve this kind of family style. So I would put all of this sort of on the table and we would eat as a family together, and this, you would put it on your plate at the table. So that's why I'm plating it in this bowl.
I'm going to enjoy this family style.
Yes,
100%.
we are. Yum. Again. And this is just 1 pound of potatoes. So that's my other point, is like sometimes we cook at home and it's way better for a pocket. It's also just better because you know what's going in everything as well. And most of the time when you're cooking at home, you can do it pretty well on a budget. So I saved a little bacon and I did it for the top. And then I'm going to add a little bit of my smoked paprika and sprinkle that as well.
I love that color, a little pop of smokiness.
I mean, if your potato salad don't have some red on it, is that really potato salad? Oh, and just because I am that person, I'm going to add in a little bit of fresh dill as well. And you just kind of play with that, put it in. I mean, shoot, we got all this dill in here. We might as well.
I'm telling you, use it. It's local.
All right. Next, we're going to go ahead and plate up our sugar snap peas. We just need to finish it with a little bit of the lemon zest. So I'm not going to add lemon juice into the snap peas because it will turn it very brown. Acid on anything green really kind of changes the color a little bit. Now, mind you, if you just want the flavor, for sure do it, but you're going to get the flavor in the zest. So I'm just going to zest a little bit of lemon in there as well.
Everybody's saying, Chef, everything looks delicious. They're excited.
Yes.
It's time to eat those. We had 2 14-year-olds cooking for their folks. Are they ready? Have the 14-year-olds presented their final plates?
My gosh, do they want to be on Top Chef Junior? Jeez.
And a 7 and 11-year-old chef. There's also we got are all the kids ready to present?
Y'all, I love all of the cooking with the kids. I love that. Okay, so I'm just gonna taste it.
Jessica said my 3-year-old almost ran away with the garlic.
A little bit of salt and pepper is all it needed.
All right, and everybody's really excited when you're done plating up the sugar snap peas to watch you cut the steak to explain against the grain and with the grain again. This is coming full circle, Chef.
Yes, right? Okay, now it's time. Too many things. I can't function when I have too many things in the way. All right, let's do it. Ooh, she looks pretty in all her glory. Okay. Just gonna add a little bit to her too.
Beautiful, beautiful.
She needs it.
So they're out there saying, I want all the cookware in the dishes. Literally everything the chef is using, you can get at H-E-B. Except for maybe one of the wood things in the back, which may not even get used, but everything else, like all the great bowls, the glass bowls, sheet pan, everything is all, the Cocina Ware Dutch oven. She was using the pan, everything is all H-E-B.
Y'all ready?
Kitchen and table. I'm ready.
Okay. So
I've never been more ready in my life, Chef. So excited for this.
Okay, so the meat grain is going this way, which means I have to cut it this way. Right? So all I'm doing is taking those pieces that we just did and I'm just slicing them. So all I'm going to do is get one slice. In fact, I'm just going to turn it over to make it a little bit easier for cutting, since that got a little bit of that crunchiness on the other side. Ooh. And I'm just cutting.
So cutting against the grain as you're doing this, Chef, it literally makes it more tender because you're cutting all the muscle fibers into smaller strands versus letting them all follow together.
I'm cutting against that. So anything that was tough is now being broken down as we cut. Guys, this is a beautiful medium. So at home, sometimes we might go medium rare a little bit, but this is a beautiful medium. And I'll show you the very center. As you can see, that steak looks fantastic.
Wow, look at that, thinly sliced.
Yep. Okay, for those, so I'll show you, I'm just gonna set this here for a moment, and I'm gonna show you this. If you were to do, I'll pick another piece that may be a little more done, because I know some people were like, okay, I want mine more on the medium well. And let's say that you want to take off the fat cap a little bit. So, I don't know why you would want to do it, but okay. I just know some do. So right. I'm just taking it off. That it was covering and it was protecting. And then we're gonna just cut, here, thin pieces. My. I am doing everything in my power to not pop this in my mouth.
You can. Hey, it's family here.
No. I was just trying to cut it first. I have every intention of popping it in. Okay, again, so we just took that fat cap off. I'm gonna go ahead and plate this up for you.
So Chef, you're getting all kinds of love, looks beautiful. They're asking if the video will be posted. Yes, so you will eventually find this video with Chef Tiff. You can watch it over and over and over again on our YouTube channel. So go to youtube.com/HEB and you'll find all kinds of great classes there, as well as Chef Tiffany's. It'll take a little time to get it posted. We do a quick edit for sound and everything like that, but you will find it on that exact HEB YouTube channel. Just look for it sometime next week, maybe.
Oh!
How is it? How'd you do?
Yo! It's so good. Okay. I mean, like, obviously, I know it's good. But every time I introduce this to someone, even if you aren't a person who say, you know, I don't really do a lot of maybe, you know, medium rare, medium, maybe it looks a little too pink for me, chef, I just ask that they give it a try. Because what you don't know is how tender and juicy this is. So definitely, you know, you can just, oh Lord, I'm ready to eat. Okay, so I'm just gonna garnish up my little plate a little bit. You know, maybe we do some green onion. Maybe just for the sake, we'll put a little bit.
I love the, you have a little bit of lemon there, Chef. You talked about earlier a little chimichurri on a cut like this. Be great, a little acid.
Chimichurri, which is like a parsley, oregano, sort of almost like a vinaigrette, right? But it's a sauce. This with chimichurri is hands down delicious. This is one of my favorite dishes. Gosh, okay. I'm sorry.
You gotta try. Hey, you don't know if you don't try, right? You gotta try it.
Look how tender. Can y'all see that?
And
like
that's what Ashley was asking about that earlier. And that's what that tenderness you just saw Chef pull apart. That's what cutting against the grain will do, because it shortens all the muscle fibers, makes it tender.
Let me do another piece for y'all.
You should do one more. This is for science, so you should do, you know.
That's how tender. That's how tender. No. Again, it's so sad. I'm sorry. I really hope you guys are eating with me.
Chef, this has been a mind-blowing experience. I love what I loved about it was there's so many people in the chat talking about the with the grain against the grain, which is great, because I think these people, if they're cooking a ribeye or whatever, you don't normally think that way. But in this, it's way cheaper to cut a meat, and it's the fact you can get it just as tender and cook it just as flavorful is.
And it actually has more flavor because it's so beefy. The other thing is, if you're ever cooking like skirt steak or with tri-tip, or you're cooking maybe fajita meat or things like that, or even slicing a chicken, you want to slice against the grain. Those are things that you just need to do. So always find the grain. Again, we have here our picanha steak that we've basted with. I'm so hungry and I'm so ready and I just want to eat. Okay, picanha steak that has a little bit of garlic, some thyme, fresh butter that we basted over, kept that fat cap on so that it could create this really, really tender, juicy meat. Then we made some potato salad with bacon and sour cream and fresh dill and green onion. So much flavor going on here. And then we took some beautiful, simple, in-season sugar snap peas, a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, and some lemon zest. This is now our meal. Maybe you add a little bit of green salad if you want some green. You know, sometimes I like a little bit of lettuce. But this right here, this is one you're going to want to remember. And this is one that you're going to add to the books because, again, you put this down on the table, you can feed a lot of people with one piece of meat. Remind you, I haven't even cut the other one. So
that's right.
At least everyone can get at least 8 to 10 pieces in general for 4 people. So that's great.
Chef, can I just say to Miss Cookie, thank you, Miss Cookie, for being here. I've had a blast hanging out with you guys. It has been such an experience. I am always a student. I love to learn. I love this. God bless you. God bless everything you're doing. You are killing it. I love seeing what you're doing. I love that you're working with us at HEB. I think it's awesome. And again, you can check her out. Again, watch this. HEB.com, the YouTube channel. Check it out. It's so great. Yeah, send us home. Send us home, Tiffany.
All right, guys. So make sure that you take a picture of your meal tonight and tag me, MasterChef TD. Also tag HEB. Who knows? We might repost them all. We would love to see it. Thank you so much for your time. And again, love you all. And I love my HEB family. Take care. Have a great meal at your table.